Hello again. My name is Robert Vogel from the Hallo Welt company, and I want to give you a report about our efforts throughout the year for making MediaWiki and especially BlueSpice WCAG or BITV compatible. So first of all, I probably need to give an overview over a couple of abbreviations and terms, which we will cover quickly. So you have a basic understanding. I mean, something like WCAG is probably known by everybody, but there may be some things new to you. Then, I want to talk about why we even did this and how it started and what challenges we faced throughout this process, and covering our solutions for them, and last but not least, obviously, what's up next. So first of all, starting with the terms, the most known information is probably the WCAG itself, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is an international standard. They are around for a long time. Everybody who basically learned about web development has heard about them. It's part of every basic course, and there are some guidelines of how to write semantic or accessible HTML, how to do things right so the web development that one does is accessible. In addition to that, there is a European standard. It's called Accessibility Requirements for ICT, so Information and Community Technology Products and Services, which applies in certain circumstances. And why is this important? Because there is also BITV, at least this is important for us as a German company. So the BITV is a regulation, a law in Germany that that manages or regulates accessibility in the IT sector, and it basically includes the European norm and the WCAG norm, or the WCAG standard. By the way, WCAG can come in different, well, not flavors, but in different versions and levels, and this is also specified in the BITV, in the Barrierefreie Informationstechnikverordnung, that is WCAG 2.1 AA. There would be also a AAA, but this one includes only the AA. And last but not least, there are the acronyms WPAT and ACR. So basically that is some document that a software vendor can provide to customers, so they can the customers can know what parts of the application or how accessible the application is. WPAT in this case is a template, as the name says. So it's basically an empty document, just giving a set of sections that need to be filled, and the accessibility conformance report is then the filled template. And our goal was to get a BITV certification or test report. You need to have this done by a third party, so sponsored by somebody external. You cannot do it on your own. Theoretically, you could create an ACR on your own. That's totally possible, but obviously it makes sense to have some external, somebody from external do the test, and from that you can basically derive or you can create such an ACR. Okay, so now let's come to MediaWiki and BlueSpice. So first of all, as I said, WCAG is a very common thing. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows why it is important, and everybody tries to comply with it. So did we. So in new extensions, in new interfaces that we develop, we clearly check that we use semantic HTML, that we use area attributes where required and stuff. But as it turned out, that is not necessarily sufficient. So first of all, I think we need to slightly differentiate between two use cases of MediaWiki. I would have identified one use case as being a website, more or less, like Wikipedia. Wikipedia is accessed by millions and millions of people every day. Most of them are anonymous. Most of them will not interact with any more advanced interface than, let's have, say, a navigation tree or something. Some may edit, that's true, but many of them will just navigate through the interface and read. As a difference to that, something like BlueSpice or many other MediaWiki applications that we have by third-party users are more like web applications. They're much more interactive, they have more features, they often require authenticated user context, which again opens up a variety of interfaces which can then be, which then are also need to have proper WCAG compliance. There are a couple of challenges. So first of all, MediaWiki itself does a good job in many places regarding WCAG, but in others not, especially in edit and admin interfaces, for example, or the special preferences is such a case where there were actually some issues which were very difficult to overcome. But also user-generated content, and I mean, user-generated content, that's the main part of the wiki, right? So editors can create their own content, and usually, as long as they use the regular markup, like for lists, for tables, for headlines, everything should be fine. And that's true, at least to some degree, because there are some fine differences, for example, in the documentation flow. We also had to learn that. For example, the order of where an image appears in the document flow can matter. So for example, if you have a section with a text, and next to the text there is an image floating, this position is not necessarily determined by where the image is in the document flow. So in our case, for example, we had an image in the content above the headline. So by a screen reader, it first read the image and then the headline, which basically is a fail. So these are things that you cannot really address in the context of software development. You can provide guidelines, you can provide help, you can provide support to editors, but you can probably not manage this by software development. And there's also something to consider, that is modern design. By the way, I don't say that it's not possible to make accessible modern design. It's totally possible, but modern design often uses several, it aims to look very good. So they play with contrasts, like text is not black, but it's gray, for example, or icons are grayed, or something like that. And it turns out that this quickly can become an issue for accessibility if you're not very careful with doing that. Okay, let's move on. So what are the key areas that WCAG and the BITV tests cover? So there's more to it, but this is really just the most important ones. One of the things is keyboard navigation, obviously. So a user must be able to navigate through all the interface with the keyboard in a meaningful order, and that's already a difficult part. And there must not be any keyboard traps or unreachable elements. So if there's a button that is visible but not reachable by the keyboard, that's a fail, for example. And to give an example, that is the case with the pop-up extension of MediaWiki, where there is a nice pop-up. You can can navigate to a link, it will show a pop-up, and that's it, and you cannot get into that pop-up properly, and you can also not go to any of those buttons. Then obviously visual properties like contrast, I've already mentioned it, the behavior for when it comes to zoom or non-standard coloring or custom styles applied to the application. Modern browsers also provide accessibility features by default, and it turns out that there can be quite some issues, for example, with the OOJS themes, where at some point the icons were just not visible anymore in a given context. By the way, this has improved over the versions of MediaWiki, and with codecs, this has become better also, but we had such issues. And last but not least, we have the screen reader compatibility. So for people that actually cannot see, they need to hear stuff. And here also, it is not very easy to design that, because similar to the keyboard navigation, the order of things being read to a user is very important, and also what is read to a user. And it is pretty difficult for a non-blind person to understand what matters here. And there's very little guidelines. How did we approach that? First of all, we made a test. Basically, that was not even so basically this came from one of our customers. One of our customers said they want to have this test. We made the test, and we got a report, and the report was not that good. So we basically first try to understand the results, because this is also not that simple. The test is made with a very specific test definition, so you can look it up. It's very well documented. It clearly states what it tests, when it tests, what the expectation is, what the outcome is, and so on. So that's quite nice. But the results coming back, you still need to interpret. This was an 80-page document, and you need to go through each and every of this and understand what is here actually the case. And when you then understand the case, you need to find a solution, which is quite a lot of effort. It quickly turned out that we need to build up more knowledge on that, and you can either learn it on your own, which is good. There are courses out there, but many of the courses, especially many of the courses that you find are really basic and will not actually help you for the test. We tried that. We were looking for consultants, for people that can actually help us understand and provide us with suggestions on how to improve. And obviously, we had to build up our tool landscape. Then we need to learn, and then we need to improve and make the test again. And that's basically how we approached all this. So next, I have a couple of no, wait, that's just one image. There are other images following. So this is just an example of how such a report looks like. Well, actually, this is the on the left side. You can see the overview. That's not the actual report. That's just the overview of the report, section by section, telling which of those sections applies, which were okay, which were not okay, or which were only partially okay. And on the right side, this is a very interesting example. This is actually out of the test of the report document, and here you can see a screenshot from what the tester did, basically. And that is special preferences. This is nothing by BlueSpice. This is the BlueSpice skin, yes, but the special preferences page is for MediaWiki. And here you can see what they actually tested. So they are setting screen sizes, and they are setting zooms and stuff like that. And in this case, this is just the screen size. They have set it to a certain level, but they are also doing stuff with zooming in. And one of the things, I'm not sure if this is, it says this up there. It's in German, but it says they're using a resolution of 1280 with a zoom of 400%. And that is quite a lot. Then you get effects like breaking, overlapping, whatever, and you fail. And that's super difficult to overcome. Okay, what else? So, oh, wait, sorry. The whole MediaWiki interface, and also especially the BlueSpice interface, is way too huge to cover all. It's way too much. So I mean, there are things that are straightforward that also work pretty good, but there are like overview pages. But whenever it comes to a complex interface, like a manager interface, some grids, this gets really difficult. Or trees, for example, get really difficult. So yeah, and also, as I mentioned before, the wiki page content we basically cannot actually control. This was also part of the tests. We had one page with content which we provided, and we said, okay, that's basically a good content as we think it is, and we learned that there is more to it. But yeah, we cannot control this as a software vendor. We can only help people making good content. So as this is such a large field, we had to focus on a particular area, and that is the reader use case. So we decided, okay, most of our the most people actually just access the wiki in a reader way. They will still be logged in because that's just the case in BlueSpice. So they will have stuff like preferences, but they will mainly use the search functionality. They will navigate through the interface. They will use the special all pages, for example. And we identified a couple of them, and then we focused on those to improve. Yeah, now we have a couple of screenshots just to show those. As I already said, we, besides having external support by experts, we also got new tools, and one tool is probably known to most. That is the AX-Dev tools, to most developers at least. That's a very common tool for checking websites for WCAG compliance. I can only recommend using the Pro edition here because it has some really nice features, especially when it comes to forms and dialogues. And it already gives the developer a very good overview of how complete or how well done this interface is. So you can see this is actually a wizard. There are 3 steps which it guides you through, and that's pretty nice. Another tool that we started using is a screen reader, and that's also not that simple. I mean, screen readers are basically user agents, just like browsers. They're different ones. We have a lot of Linux users, especially the developers. So there's Orca for that. But actually, it turns out that the tests are mainly being done with the NVDA screen reader, which is a Windows-only application. So we need to set that up. You need to get that screen reader. That's just good. But just running that screen reader is still not everything that you need to do. You need to understand what is good and what is bad, because the screen reader just reads you stuff. And I mean, as a non-blind person, you may think that is good or good enough. But when the tester tests things with their screen reader, they can be picky about this, what exactly happens. And it's really important to learn how to use that tool. It's not just you turn it on and then go through the page, but there are features like we see here, some tree, some accessibility tree visualization that actually gives you an insight on how the screen reader sees the site. It's not just there's a protocol where minutes list where it actually says, okay, I'm reading this, I'm reading this, I'm reading this, I'm reading this line by line, but that is not sufficient. You need to understand how it actually sees the website, and you need to build up quite some knowledge about how this tool works, and you need to know what your testers are actually using, because there can be differences to that. So we did this. We walked through this. We are still in the process, to be honest. We have not passed the test yet. We didn't have another one. but as a summary, I can say one clearly underestimates the complexity of this topic. As I said, most developers learn about WCAG. They think if they do some nice structuring, like semantic structuring, if they do their area labels, they are all good. This is not the case. You need to put a lot more effort into that. You need to integrate that into your development process by having checklists, by having audits of your code. And that's quite some effort. As I said, there is some trade-off sometimes between the modern this design. So one reason why the Wikipedia the Wikipedia case works pretty well is because the vector skin is really bare-bone. It's really simple. More modern skins work different and may have other challenges. So I don't say that it is impossible. You can do it, but it's more difficult as if you have a very simple skin, the vector skin, for example. Then again, no area is better than bad area. This is also a learning. So developer sometimes thinks he should use an area attribute in a given context, but it turns out that in the end this was the wrong decision. And it's really hard to find good examples, especially for complex interfaces. I mean, most common cases, lists, tables, that's straightforward, but having a filterable and sortable grid, for example, this is rather difficult to find a good example of how these things need to look in a real world scenario. As I said, you need tools. And especially you really need to understand how these tools work. This is especially true for the screen reader. It's not sufficient to just have the screen reader. You need to understand how it works and how people use it, actually, and the test users use it. And what we also did is, having a partner on this is super helpful. So when you get somebody somebody who does the tests, who can also support you in a technical way and give you examples or give you recommendations on all those topics, this is very, very helpful. And so what's up next? As I said, we didn't complete the BITV test yet, but it's hopefully happening soon, so we're in a good way as far as we can tell. And once this is done, we need to make sure that we stay on this track, and we need to implement this in the development process, and probably also improve in other areas. As I said, we are limiting ourselves at the moment to some degree. And as this is a lot of effort, we may need to hire additional staff for that as well. Not exclusively for that, but basically to split the load between the different developers. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Thanks very much. Questions? Okay, there's already a question.
For me, it was very interesting because I'm a member of our quality management unit. And just a question, do you have any experience or knowledge about if this is a matter or an issue during certification processes in the company? You as an organization who sells wikis, probably it is, but if organizations just use wikis in their own environment, could that be a problem? Or do you know something about this?
Not that I'm aware of, to be honest.
Okay.
So for us it's important because it's part of the product and our customer require it, either by law or by otherwise policy. But I think for purely internal tools, I don't think that it applies. Still recommend it because you may have co-workers that may rely on it.
Makes me feel better.
Okay, I come over this way.
Thank you. Just a quick question of clarification. just because I'm not 100% sure I understand the context, even though the presentation was very clear. Is BITV a German equivalent of what in the United States might be Section 508?
I don't know exactly.
Okay.
It is basically a Verordnung, some kind of a law, basically.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a requirement by law.
Okay, and then, and you may have already addressed this up front, but my understanding is that there is an international standard for accessibility that goes by the name Web Content Accessibility Guidelines.
Yeah.
And is BITV an implementation of that?
Exactly, it covers them. BITV includes two standards. One is the WCAG standard, and the other one is the European norm, which I also had on the presentation. So it's a combination. Both need to be implemented for getting the BITV.
Okay, so I think that Section 508 that I'm referring to is the United States implementation of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. My last question, I apologize for running long, is my hope is that this would be something that's valuable to everyone, especially extension developers who, because ultimately as we want to make MediaWiki and its ecosystem of extensions viable for commercial and government implementation, these accessibility standards are essential. Mm-hmm. And I know you know that. I'm hoping to just emphasize the point for everyone. Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, Karsten.
Then looking at the accessibility of a wiki using BlueSpice, obviously you will focus on extensions you create for BlueSpice, but you build up on MediaWiki. You said, for example, also you use MediaWiki extensions. I guess nobody expects you to fix MediaWiki core issues with VCG, whatever it's, yeah? Do you at least report these issues to a fabricator and say, okay, this is a pop-up extension, this is a big issue because I can't get onto this modal, I can't access the pop-up and things like this, or is this something where you say, okay, I would like to do it, but we haven't hired the staff to do this?
So first of all,
things like this.
The Wikimedia Foundation is aware of this topic. There are fabricated tasks dealing with exactly these things, and they already did a lot of things. So, for example, Codex is much better than, for example, OUI. And we're using MediaWiki 143, and more recent versions, there are already some fixes, for example, in Visual Editor. So no, we haven't filed anything yet, but I wouldn't say that we don't do that. Yeah. So if you find something where we say, okay, this is they don't know about it, yeah, we can report it. But again, the problem is the LTS, right? So if we report it, it will probably not fix for us anyways. So unless somebody backports it. But yeah, sure, we're going to share this kind of information. We haven't done so far because also of speed and flexibility. For example, I said the pop-ups extension has an issue, and trying to fix that on the pop-ups extension is extremely difficult. And as the pop-ups extension itself is not that super functionality, the more easy way, unfortunately, is to just say, let's do our own. That is then compatible.
Okay, we really have to wrap up, but Rich, you had something short.
I promised to be quick. Okay. Yeah. So one of the values that I love about the MediaWiki community is how much they care about multi-language support and internationalization, and I hope that accessibility is on par with internationalization.
Yeah.
Great. And Yaron, you also had your hand up, but is it quick or longer? Okay, shoot, because we have 1 more minute.
About the pop-ups extension, I guess the issue is that there's no such thing as hover on mobile devices. Maybe not. Oh, that's not.
It's not mobile devices. Actually, if you can use keyboard navigation, and there will be actually the pop-up will be shown.
Oh, good to know.
But then you end. So you see something, but you cannot enter it. You cannot get into there. You cannot use there's a button. There's a button, and that is basically a fail in the test.
Okay, so what is the general solution for that kind of thing? For in order to pass accessibility guidelines.
The general solution is one needs to implement that in the development process. One needs to actually check. The developers need to check that there are no keyboard traps. That everything in their flow is accessible by keyboard, for example. And then you would actually need to do some audits using such tools like the X. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. Then I think we'll wrap up and we move on with the next presentation.